She had friends over and she was very busy. She had my wife and a friend of my wife's coming to town. A little bit of pressure on her because the friend that my wife was bringing owned a decor store. And they were going to have a deep immersion in culture, decor, and probably fashion. And she was very, very excited about it. She had a friend over at the house, and she actually had her accident running to the phone. At 85 years old, she broke out into a sprint to answer the phone because she needed the yard mowed. Now, my 85-year-old mother lives in an acre lot, and I don't know if you guys know this or not, but she used a push mower on the front yard and a riding mower in the back. Recently, she accomplished mowing her yard with a broken foot wearing a boot. We had a few conversations about her mowing the yard with a broken foot in the boot. But while she was busy and having fun, she was also busy in a certain direction. Her time was dominated by helping others and doing things for other people. I can just mention a few for you. You guys can probably fill in a bunch more. Healing Hands International, a great, great corner of pride for my entire family. Oh, before I go any further, this was the dinner table that we found set for the Town and Country Garden Club. How busy she was that she didn't have time to mow her yard. She was doing this. But Healing Hands International, and I appreciate Joe coming and talking today. I want him to talk a little bit about that organization. You know how active and engaged she was in the church. She was also active, engaged in the community. But I think one of the sweet spots of Joree was the fact that she would not only help her friends, but she would help complete strangers. And I understand, I've had some people tell me that you guys actually had to have an intervention with Joree to slow her down from bringing some of the people she would pick up on the way to church. Some of them were a little bit wobbly and a little scary, and y'all had to say, hey, Joree, tone it down just a little bit. You're scaring us. And all that time she spent taking care of other people and focused on all kinds of things around the globe, I want to confess to you guys that I got a little bit jealous. I felt a little bit slighted from time to time. And if you think about her telling me all of her adventures and everything, I apologize for that. I'm a little bit embarrassed for that, but it's true. But I remember the early morning pre-dawn rides I had with my father going to the farm. And Homer had a few things he would instruct me to do, some instructions for me that he would lay down. And one of them that was a consistent and recurring theme is he'd tell me, Keith, you make sure you get your wife and your kids taken care of. You make sure you take care of your mom. You make sure you take care of the family. And when they're in a good spot, then you focus on helping other people. And you especially focus on helping desperate people. Now, I'm not giving you instructions because I think this needs to be done. I'm trying to help you because what you're going to find, young man, is that this is what's going to provide you the most satisfaction and joy and enduring happiness in your life is helping other people. And when I thought about me being a little bit slighted by my mom, I realized exactly what she was doing. Me, my wife, my son and daughter, we're in a good spot. My brother is in a good spot. So she turned her attention to helping others. So that little bit of envy I had turned to great pride for what my mother did for the community and for a lot of you guys in here. A few weeks ago, literally a few weeks ago, I was up with my wife and my son, and we were visiting my mom. And she said, hey, 15, 20 minutes, let's sneak out. Let's go over and visit Sue Walker over at Hearthside. Just her instinct, hey, let's go check on somebody. And we went over to Hearthside, and we chatted with Sue Walker a little bit. She's got some memory issues, and she was struggling. But walking back, I talked to my mom. And we talked about Harside, because she lived in that big house with those basement steps that used to just drive me crazy. And as we're walking back, she said, Keith, I'm not ready for that yet. And I said, I agreed with her. And she said, I am doing exactly what I want to do in the spot that I want to do it around the people that I absolutely want to be surrounded with. I don't want to go to Florida. I don't want to go anywhere else. I want to stay right here in this house, going to Berea Church of Christ, and doing exactly what I'm doing right now. She was very satisfied, very happy. So one thing about Mom that I also want y'all to know, running to the phone, slipping and falling, she didn't break any bones in her head or neck or back, not a single bone. But the impact of her fall gave her no pain. She felt no pain at all, ever. But the one thing about Joree was, through the entire process, she was incredibly clear-headed. She knew exactly what was going on. She could hear the doctors and nurses. She was completely aware of everything. Really, I think Kevin said it the most eloquently. The only anxiety that woman had at the end of her life was the fact that she couldn't talk. Joree was a prolific conversationalist, as you guys all know from that response. I think the record she set with my daughter was a 4-hour phone conversation. So she knew exactly what was going on, and was able to communicate with us pretty good there at the end. But one thing that made the time so much easier is the fact that my mother was a devout Christian. She leaned into her faith. She studied her faith. She taught her faith. She was not scared or afraid or intimidated in the slightest. And that came across in every moment at the end of her life. But don't take my word for it. Take Joree's, because she has a note for you guys. In fact, I'd like to thank Mr. McDowell for jotting this stuff down, because he went to the ICU with her, and she had a little bit of communication that she wanted to share. So don't take my word for it. Joree said, if I don't survive this test, tell everyone I love them. Did you guys hear that? Joree's telling you that she loved you. Tell the grandchildren that I love them. She said, I'm ready to go. This is Mr. McDowell's words. There wasn't the slightest trace of sadness, fear, or concern in her eyes. She was thinking about all the people she loved and who loved her, who she would be leaving. But I know she was also thinking about seeing Homer again. No, this is Mr. McDowell's words again. She understood her situation completely. She was completely at peace and completely unafraid. So I tell you that in hopes that it eases your heart just a little bit, that Joree was living so wide open and so happy, and the fact that she was not concerned at all about passing away, that she knew she was going to heaven. She was convinced she was going to heaven. I am a little jealous of that too, to be honest with you. But I, again, want to thank you guys all so much for being here today.
Keith, you're just a chip off the old block. He told me, he said, now I want to get up there first because I just got to welcome everybody. It'll just take a minute or two. It was all beautiful. She would love that. We're here to celebrate the life of Joree Dudley. Born on Monday, July the 29th in 1940 to Ridley Wesley Kenton and Lucille Adcock in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. She passed away on Sunday, September the 28th at the age of 85, which I pause to tell you that there's not a soul that did not know her that would have ever looked at her in her life and thought she was 85. They would have thought she's probably in maybe 60. And when I was talking with her on the day before she passed, Keith was talking to a doctor or nurses or something. It was just me and her. She's fully aware of everything. She just cannot move. She cannot move her arms. I asked her if she could, and she said yes. She nodded yes. She was trying to move her fingers, and she thought she was moving them, but she wasn't. And I said, Joree, I just got one question for you. How in the world did you run through your house so fast? Did you hurt yourself this bad? And if you get your phone out and you look up emojis, there's one that Joree created. It's the rolling of the eyes, which she did all the time. And she just rolled her eyes straight to the ceiling because she was accident prone, and she was like, she is survived by her oldest son, Kent, and his wife, Michelle, and their son, Jack. Joree is also survived by her son, Keith, his wife, Kim, and their children, Lila and Luke. She's survived by her sister-in-law and best buddy, Carolyn Dudley, and by her other sister-in-law, Joree Dudley of Gunnersville, Alabama. She was preceded in death just over 3 years ago by her husband of 62 years, Homer Dudley, and by her brothers-in-law, Frank Dudley and James Dudley, sister-in-law, Ann Litchford, wife of Earl Litchford. Joree moved to the small town of Palm Harbor, Florida at the age of 9, graduated as valedictorian of Tarper Springs High School in 1958, was a cheerleader, I believe that, and a member of the infamous Garter girls basketball team, and I have no idea what that's about. She spent her whole life in service. She was active in Guardian Ad Litem, who worked to protect the rights of children who were in very volatile situations. She absolutely adored the ladies of the Town and Country Garden Club. And as Keith has already said, her faith was interwoven in all of her life. She and Homer helped build the church, the building down at Palm Harbor, and they were devout members there. When they moved back to Tennessee, they were longtime members at College Hills, and in the last few years here at Berea. Don't you ever doubt it for 1 minute that God was not on the throne of her heart. It dictated every action, thought, and deed. Her and Homer were a part of the Dudley Century Farm out in Mount Juliet, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. We're grateful that Joe is here with Healing Hands. She served in mission projects in Africa, Haiti, Honduras, and other countries. She was an authentic Christian, a wonderful wife, the best mom, the best grandmother, and if you knew her, the best friend.
Keith, I would almost bet money that she was mowing that yard without that boot on. There's a land that is fairer than day, and by faith we can see it afar, for the Father waits over the way, to prepare us a dwelling place there, in the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore.
hello, everyone, and thanks for being here today. All those who have traveled near and far, we appreciate you respecting our mother today. I am, I am Kent Dudley. I'm the oldest and better looking of the two sons. No, I want to thank my brother Keith. He just did an excellent job. And my wife and I have flown 30 hours to get here from Indonesia. We are presently taking my dream was to sail a 40-foot boat around the planet Earth, and we're halfway. And I'm so thankful. My wife is my only crew, and we got here, and thank goodness we're here to respect Mom, and we appreciate everybody else getting here too. I just wrote down some notes. As a matter of fact, Kevin wiped me out. A lot of the stuff he said was right on my notes, so I got to kind of ad-lib here a little bit. But Mom was born in Wilson County, Tennessee, by Dr. Sam. A lot of people were born by Dr. Sam here in Wilson County, and she lived there in Tennessee, but they moved to Palm Harbor, Florida, a little seaside town near Clearwater in Pinellas County, and it was fascinating. Palm Harbor, my father was walking down the street. He was visiting his sister, and Mom was living there in Palm Harbor. It's little shell roads in this town during the 50s and 60s, and it was amazing. He was from Lebanon, Tennessee, and she was from Mount Juliet, Florida, and they were walking down the street. They both went to the Church of Christ. It was divine intervention. This guy checked all the boxes. It was just fascinating how they met. And from there, as Kevin said, Mom was valedictorian of high school. She really had big plans. She was accepted to Florida State University to go to school, and she wanted to study criminology. And that was her passion. She really did well at school, but there was a big change here that took place. She met Homer, and she was a young lady. She was 21 years old, and she got married. And so college plans had to be put on the back burner. She was going to start a family. She had a good Christian man. She was 21 years old, and I was reflecting today, October 11th, 64 years ago, within this hour, she had me. Today is my birthday. How exciting for a 21-year-old girl, married and to start a family. And then 3 years later, she was fortunate to have Keith. So she had two rambunctious little boys running around, a young lady. And I'm just thinking of 21-year-old girls today having that responsibility, and they do. But just how exciting life was. And so college had to be put on hold, her dreams of college. But let me just, take a break here. As I said, Kevin kind of tripped me up here a little bit this morning. Let's see. With all the great, she was born to Ridley and Lucille Kenton. Now, Ridley, he was a heavy smoker, and when Mom, it was 1969, February 14th, he died. And her mother was in a wheelchair, suffered from polio. She was a teacher at Mount Juliet High School. She teach Social Security and French, her mother. But Nanny, we called her Nanny, she was in a wheelchair. So Mom was one of the sandwich generation where you had to take care of Mom and you had to take care of two little boys. She was in the middle, so college plans didn't really work out for her. So she had a lot of responsibility taking care of my mom, taking care of the family, but Mom stepped up. And that was a tough challenge for her because she was doing real well in school, and that was very extremely challenging. Let's see. But Joree's legacy didn't fade there. Keith and I graduated from that university. She was accepted. Keith got a degree in business. I got a degree in business. We both graduated from Florida State. And we're very proud that we were able to carry that tradition. Even though the road took a curve for Mom, she was very proud and supported us. But now, the next generation, I'm proud of Lila and Luke. Lila is a medical doctor, passed her board, and she's taken this to another level that Keith and I couldn't take it to. And she's here today, and we're so impressed with Lila. Now, Luke, his story, Luke was a fantastic baseball player. Now, Keith and I didn't scare any players of the opposing team when we walked up to the base to swing the bat. Luke had a reputation of his confidence is just unbelievable. Mom would attend his baseball games and cheer him on. But Luke, when he stepped up to the bat, the other players were intimidated, and I never experienced anything like that in my days of baseball. So he's quite a skill and quite a talent, and she was so proud of him and so proud of Lila. So I would just want to share those thoughts about that. Mom and Dad also ran into two young men that also changed their life, and that was Isaac and Caleb, and Stephen. This family is part of our family, I call it, because they've really they were hit some hard times. I think it was 15 years ago. Is that right, Stephen? Say something about that. And they were needing some help. We all have bad times of that. So Mom and Dad really stepped up, and they were kind of like surrogate grandparents. And they took them into the house. They spend really most holidays and Christmas and Thanksgiving. But, they help you out. But I tell you, you really helped Mom and Dad, giving them purpose. And I just want to say how much they loved you and cared about you and how important you are to their life and to our lives. And I just want to just acknowledge that relationship, how they had two new sons to take care of later on, and I thought that was very special. As we say goodbye to Joree, let's hold close the lessons she leaves us with. The love can redirect us to paths more beautiful than we had planned. The strength isn't always found, is always loud, but it's always there. And that a life well lived isn't measured by degrees or destination, but in the lives we touched, the hands we've held, and the faith we shared. Mom, you are our North Star, the one who showed us how to walk with purpose, even when the road curved. We love you, we miss you, and we promise to keep shining your light. Kent, Michelle, and our family, thank you for coming.
Well, we all kind of wrote our speeches a little bit, our remembrance, so we're going to cross over just a little bit. But I'm Kim. I'm Keith's wife. And I just want to share a part of that you may or may not know from my perspective of Joree. Yes, she was an amazing lady, a wonderful mother-in-law. But most importantly, in our lives, she was an amazing grandmother. Well, the fact, you probably do know the latter because she bragged about her grandchildren constantly. To them, she was Joree, period. And being the first grandchild, Lila got to bestow the naming, and it stuck, and it was just perfect. So we talk about Joree. From the moment she saw each and every one of them, they became an integral part of her and Homer's lives. She made sure each one of them knew how very proud she was of them. She would ask about schools, their grades, what their aspirations might be. She would give a little bit of advice, and she would listen. And she was so proud of all their academic accomplishments and what the future might look like. She encouraged and followed them on all their highs and lows. And they would confide in her. They would share photos with her. And let me tell you, as parents, we didn't know half of what they knew. I love that. But Joree was always only a phone call away, as you've heard, and she loved hearing from each of them. They would send her photos and tell her things, and it was just amazing. And she'd say, "Oh, well, didn't you see that photo about da-da-da?" And I'm like, "No." So she knew a lot about you, Dylan. Now, I don't know if you've ever been on a call with her, but she can talk, as we've talked, and boy, can she talk. So not only should she do that with them, but she also listened. She was a great sounding board. Keith brought up about the 4-hour conversation she had with Lila, and she did. They were so excited. She felt like she was breaking a record just by talking to her for that long. So, but besides academics, she was equally excited to follow them in all their sports. She loves sports, especially ones played by her grandkids. Soccer, basketball, baseball. It didn't matter if she watched them in person, on video, or TV, or in photos. She wanted to know every play-by-play, and she expected a call after every single game to hear all about it. And she would root with them, whether they won or lost, encourage them when they hit a wall, and she could remember every single stat. Her memory was amazing. And you may be just thinking I'm talking about Kent and Keith's kids, Lila, Luke, and Jack, whom she loved dearly. But Gagarie had a huge heart that extended not just to the three of them. As Kent mentioned, she took Caleb and Isaac under her wing, and our kids' friends too. And she treated them alike and so very special. And the same thing applied. I'm here for you. What can I do for you? How can I help you? She loved hearing their stories, watching them play sports, encouraged by their accomplishments, and her heart was so big and so generous. She will sorely be missed. So if you were one of the lucky ones, like Lila, Luke, Jack, Caleb, and Isaac, you had an amazing grandmother, one who loved each of you unconditionally and had a special place for you. And she's looking over you now, and she is rooting you on every step of the way. Keep pushing hard. Don't give up. Make a difference in this world. I couldn't ask for a better mother-in-law. May you rest in peace, Joree. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lila Dudley. Thank you guys for being here so much. I am her sole granddaughter, and I'm also up here speaking today because I hold the world record for the longest uninterrupted phone conversation with her ever. 3 hours and 15 minutes. They're being a little dramatic. I can't go that long without peeing. I've definitely talked to her for 4 hours, but we're just gonna go with that world record for now because that's what she always told me. If there's another record out there, I won't be surprised, but that's what she told me. I'm gonna try my best to keep it together, but if anyone's looked up front, there's an empty tissue box already, so I'm definitely the emotional one of the family. Okay. How lucky am I to have the most incredible grandmother anyone could ever ask for? She was everything a perfect grandmother could be. She was the most incredible chef, and I bragged about it my entire life. She was as supportive as could be. She watched every single one of Luke's baseball games, and I know people have talked about this, but when I tell you there's like 6 baseball games every single weekend, and she watched every single play. And then she would call and she would be like, Lila, did you hear that? Did you watch that one play? No, I did not watch that one play. She let me bring every single friend I had growing up into her home, and she treated them like they were her own. I didn't know how I was going to tell my entire group of college girlfriends that she passed away when they all learned to love her so much. When I told her secrets, she kept it from my mom. I had friends staying at her house one time, and we were going to go explore the town. And I think I had mentioned to her at one point that I wanted a tattoo, and I did come back with a tattoo. And the second I walked in my house, she knew. Not because I had told her, but because she had that grandmother's intuition. You got a tattoo. Maybe. Let me see it. And I showed her, she shook her head. At least it's a cross. And she knew my mother would be pissed. But she didn't tell her. She just told me that I needed to tell her. And so I did. And my mother was pissed. But point being that she didn't tell her, and she wasn't going to tell her, she just wanted me to do it on my own. It was a good grandmother move. Her house and her in it was like a magical place to me growing up. I thought every part of it was so cool, and she worked so hard to make it so perfect for everyone who came inside. Even to me, the basement was so cool as someone who comes from Florida. And she would kill me every single time I brought a friend in town and showed them downstairs and all the places that she thought was so dirty and messy. No, Lila, not the basement, come on. I'm joking, of course, but she loved to host people and she loved to make her home perfect. I'm just not sure she knew that the perfect part about it was her being in it. My grandmother was also special in her own ways. I just want to talk about a few things that she loved. Should I lighten the mood? She loved to talk and tell stories, as you all know at this point. Sports, specifically FSU football. I'd be in college and she'd be calling me up on the phone. Lila, did you watch that one basketball play? No, I did not. Tell me about it, please. She loved finding a good bargain, especially at a yard sale, especially at Goodwill. Oh, goodness. If she could get something for $1, that was a win for the weekend. She loved goofy decor. She would show me around her house with her new finds and say, "Isn't that just neat?" She liked the most predictable and cheesy Hallmark rom-coms that were ever invented in this world. I could go on for hours and hours about the things that she loved. She also loved the zinnias that my grandfather planted very much. Things my grandmother did not like. The groundhog in her backyard. I'm not sure if any of you know this, but my grandmother had a BB gun that she would chase the groundhog around to try to get it out of the backyard because it would eat her flowers. She also despised the unknown caller that would call her every single day when I showed people her basement and the University of Florida. That list is pretty short because realistically, there wasn't many things in this world that my grandmother didn't love. She wasn't a negative person. I think other people have also talked about this, but my grandmother was smart as could be. I could never wrap my head around how she knew so much. She would tell me stories of her childhood, from my parents' childhood, and she could tell me every single detail up until what they were wearing, head to toe. Every single item in her house, including all those old photos in the living room, and every knick-knack, she could tell you every single person's name, their background story. I couldn't tell you any of it. I'm not that good as she is. And she knew the Bible. Every time we talked, she would tell me, "Lila, do you know the story of so-and-so? Maybe you can give me a refresher on that one?" And she would tell me a new one every time. Specifically, when I was telling her about the drama about my friends. "Grandma, my best friend got cheated on this weekend," and I would tell her how she's really going through it. "Well, have you heard the story of so-and-so in the Bible?" And I just think that's so neat. It's not that she was hearing stories that were told the Sunday morning. She knew a story for everything that was happening in his life. She could recall all of it just on the spot. She was so smart. My grandmother believed the funniest people in the world were also some of the smartest. She would say things like, "You have to really be thinking to be that quick and witty." She was both of those things, quick and witty. She was hilarious to me. Maybe it's because I'm from Florida, but I thought she loved a good hillbilly Southern joke. And I loved to giggle with her. She had this one joke she would play with the scammers when they called. "I'm looking to speak to Homer Dudley." "Me too. Haven't been able to talk to him in a few years. If you find him, could you please tell him he needs to come home?" I'm glad you guys are laughing right now. I didn't think it would go over like that. She was way better at telling it, I promise, but I can't remember every single detail like she could. My grandmother also had so much grace. It's a trait of hers I have yet to pick up. For example, when I would ask about Carolyn in Alabama football, she would tell me, "That's just not something that we talk about. It's not good for us. It's not good for us, so we just don't talk about it." Really? You don't want to tell her at all that FSU just beat Alabama in football? Not at all? She had so much grace, and she didn't pass judgments on people. How many opportunities there were, or maybe she just kept it entirely to herself. We would talk about people and the decisions that they had made, just as everyone does, but the story didn't end with a, "Well, why would they do that?" It would end with a, "Okay," and then we move on. I would love to grow into this kind of grace someday. She was the kindest person, possibly that I've ever known. She was the gold standard for what it meant to help other people in this world. And I cannot tell you how proud I am and was growing up telling the stories of my grandparents who went to Haiti and Honduras and Malawi to change people's lives and save so many people, help those who needed it in this world. My grandmother, standing in operating rooms, standing for hours at a time without a good bed to go to at the end of the day. She's so much better than me. That was their fun. That was their vacation and adventure, going across the world to help people they had never met. That in itself was enough to call her a very kind person, but it didn't stop there. There was such a long period that every week she would go to the prison and talk to the women there and lead them in Bible study. She wanted to help them find a second chance. She was a good friend to her friends. When there were friends who needed her help, she would open up their house and let them come and stay with her for so long. That's just what my grandmother did. She took people in this world and she made them family. People all around this world, not just poorer countries, but in her neighborhood. I was so scared of losing her, but when I was thinking about my grandmother's life, all I could think about is that she did everything right. She was a good Christian and a good person, and she checked off all the boxes in this world that someone was supposed to check off. She found the love of her life and married him immediately. Me and my grandmother would talk about boys, and I remember her talking a few times and saying, well, when you saw him for the first time, did you just know? Because that's how you know he's the one. You'll just know when you know. I knew right away, and then I married him. It's the greatest love story I've ever heard, and I look up to it so much. It's probably the only reason I'm not drenched in tears talking right now, although I've been crying this entire time. The fact that those two are together again is the only good thing to come out of this. I can't imagine what it was like when she got to go to heaven and hug him again, because my grandmother is in heaven. She is with my grandfather. Sorry, I can't even see now. Sorry, I probably shouldn't put my snot into my eyes. Heaven. She is with my grandfather, who is just as good of a person and a Christian. When me and Luke went to go say bye to her for the last time, I think the thing we told her the most is that we loved her so much. And I didn't want to tell her I would miss her because I didn't want her to be sad, but I couldn't help it, so I probably said that the second most. The only other thing I think we said more than one time was that we wanted to make her proud. But as I've thought about this, Luke's in college right now, studying finance, and I'm in my third year of medical school. But I think the thing that would make her truly proud is us just being good people. Being good to those in our lives, being forgiving, and being good to those we don't even know. And I think that's what makes her proud. I think it's what would make her proud of all of us. So thank you for being here today, celebrating her life. It means a lot to all of us.
Safe in the arms of Jesus.
I'm glad everyone else wrote down their comments because I didn't want to be the only one. I am Joe Smith, and I work with Healing Hands International. Keith asked me to say a few things about Healing Hands because he knew how much his parents loved Healing Hands and how much they were bought into our work. I had the honor and privilege of knowing both Homer and Joree for a number of years. In my kitchen, I have this towel, and it says, if you ate today, hug a farmer. Quick Joree approved PSA. If you are yet to be married or newly married, these are not for wiping your hands. Whatever you do, do not wipe up a spill with Joree's fancy decorative towels. Learn from my mistakes. So in my kitchen, I have this towel. It says hug a farmer if you ate today. One of the farmers that I think about when I see this towel is Homer. He provided untold amounts of discounted, sometimes free produce to people in Wilson County. His little produce stand was widely known and frequently visited. You probably also heard the saying, behind every good man is a great woman, and that was certainly true for Homer and Joree. First picture, please. The Dudleys were longtime supporters of Healing Hands. Joree was actually involved with Healing Hands before Homer was. She participated in our Magi project as far back as 2009, where she assembled gift boxes for children and even went to Honduras that year to help distribute them. In this picture, Joree is encouraging some women at a bakery in Malawi. She attended our Women of Hope conference and frequently asked how she could help women in other countries. She and Keith went with me to Malawi several years ago where we honored Homer, but where she could also see this women's bakery co-op. The women baked bread for their community and used the profits to pay back a microloan and to send their children to school. Here, Joree is encouraging some of the women to keep up the good work. The last time someone from Healing Hands spoke with Joree was just a day or two before her passing. She was checking up on the prospects of some electric ovens for this very bakery co-op. The government had been promising to bring electricity to the village for years, and while some progress has been made, that hasn't happened yet. She wanted to be sure that we told her when they had electricity because she wanted the green light to be able to contribute toward buying some ovens, and she wanted to twist a few other arms at the same time. Some of you probably are familiar with her and Homer doing a little arm twisting from time to time. She was always inviting other women to our Women of Hope conference. She attended most years since 2010, and since her passing, someone's even called our office and asked about bringing a group to the conference next year in her honor. Next picture. This picture was also taken in Malawi on the trip that I mentioned. The ladies that she was talking with could not believe that Joree was in her 80s and traveling to the other side of the planet to help them, much less jumping up on a tractor for a photo opportunity. I know Joree. If you know Joree very well, you know that she was not the kind of person to let grass grow under her feet. She was always doing something, frequently redecorating her home, frequently changing out the decorative towels, but always doing something. Next picture, please. Homer and Joree were also strong supporters of our water and agricultural programs at Healing Hands. Homer asked us for a banner to advertise Healing Hands at the vegetable stand he operated for well over a decade. He donated a lot, if not all, the proceeds to Healing Hands and some other good causes. After Homer's passing, Joree continued to support our Hunger to Harvest program. Next picture, please. I think I got to know Homer and Joree the best back in 2018 when they went with Healing Hands to Haiti to celebrate and witness the drilling of our 1,000th water well. Here, Homer and Joree are operating that pump shortly after it was installed. The world is a better place because they were in it and because they sought to leave it better than they found it. I would say they succeeded in that effort. If you would like to know more about Healing Hands International and the types of projects that excited Homer and Joree, I'd love to talk with you later. Thank you.
You know, it's amazing all the stories that have been told. One that stands out to me was a Christian school in Africa that had macadamia orchard. And so Homer and Joree raised money to buy them a tractor to, I guess, shake the tree. And if you don't think God is in the work, it just so happened that year the macadamia nut groves or whatever in Hawaii had a setback. And so because of that tractor and their efforts, they were able to fund a lot of people going to that Christian school in South Africa.
So God is in the work. We just need to get off our seats. Oh, Lord, my
Joree would be so proud of all of you. She is so proud of all of you. But to have the ability to come up here and talk about your mom and your mother-in-law in a kind way. You know, truly, we're not really doing her funeral. She did her own. Because your funeral is made by the way you live your life. We're just reminiscing. I share with you the words of Isaac Johnson. You've already heard about his dad, Stephen, and he and his brother. He was asked if he would like to speak. He couldn't do it. But he wrote, and I'm going to read for him, this most beautiful essay, short but poignant. Because Joree had a way of making everybody feel like you were part of her family. As many of you know, Miss Joree and I had a special friendship that many don't get to experience. In honor of Miss Joree, I would like to give an insight of how this came to be. My family and I moved to Lebanon when I was in the 5th grade, and my brother Caleb was in the 7th grade. We had fallen on hard times and were living at the Dixie Motel right next to the old family video near the square. One week, we couldn't pay the rent to the owner, and he knew somebody that might be able to help and reached out to them. It was Miss Joree. My dad and Miss Joree talked on the phone for about 2 hours that night, sharing life stories and getting to know one another. A few days later, Homer had my dad come out to the farm and help him set up a greenhouse for the summer. And then after that, Homer and Jim Fulgham took Dad out for lunch, and they got him a haircut. The very next night, Dad took me and my brother over to Homer and Jolie's for dinner. That was about 10 years ago. And ever since that night, there was a bond between us that was unbreakable. They took us in as family without hesitation, always having us over for dinner or to play games. My brother and I would be at the farm almost every weekend helping Homer pick vegetables, even though some of the time me and my brother were throwing rotten tomatoes at each other. Joree would have us over to the house to help her with the yard work or to move some furniture around. And anything Miss Joree needed, we did it right on the spot immediately without hesitation. They, in fact, became grandparents for us. There is no doubt God sent them into our lives. I can't remember a time when we weren't at Miss Joree's house for a holiday to eat a dinner and to count how many decorations were set up in the house to win a cash prize. Miss Joree was there for everything, from taking us to our doctor's appointments to helping us get our driver's license. She came to high school graduation. She was always taking us out to eat, dropping us off at Jimmy Floyd to play some basketball, and every birthday, Miss Joree would take us out to lunch and buy us clothes, even though all I ever wanted was a pair of basketball shoes. She still made me to try on jeans and khakis. They were there for every basketball and football game, from middle school to high school. Miss Joree would pick us up from practice and school when Dad was at work. If you can name it, Miss Joree was there. There is an endless amount of things Miss Joree did for my family. I will be forever grateful to Miss Joree. However, the most important thing that Joree could ever give was showing us the love she had for Jesus, being of an example of what it's like to live a life according to God and His Word. My family and I love Miss Joree so much, and we will miss her dearly. I know that this is not a goodbye, but I will see you later. Until that day comes, thank you, Miss Joree. Well, I'm kind of like Kent. Pretty much everything's been said. But I do have a couple things that Joree wants me to say. For you see, I've known them for over 15 years now. And they told me a long time ago that when it was time that we want you to do our service. And before Homer died, he told me exactly what he wanted said. And even though we had no clue that we were going to be here doing this today, Joree had already told me some things on her heart that need to be said. The Bible says in Psalm chapter 90, the days of our lives are 70 years of age. And if by reason of strength they be fourscore years, which is 80, yet is their strength labor and sorrow, for it is soon cut off, and we fly away. She lived 85 of the greatest years ever known to a human being. Lived them to the fullest and made such a difference. Her walk can be measured by 85 years or 31,180 days on this life, in this life. The Bible speaks of a man by the name of Abel, one of the first children born on the planet. It says, by faith, Abel offered a better sacrifice than his brother Cain did, and by faith he was commended as a righteous man when God spoke well of his offerings. And by faith he still speaks, even though he is dead. Today, and for the rest of your life, her life will speak to you. Some quiet moment, you remember her voice. You'll remember her wisdom. You'll remember her guidance. And she wants you to remember some very important things. She loved God first and foremost above anyone at any time. And she lived that out, not as a religion, but as a relationship. She came to obey the gospel. She believed with all of her heart that Jesus Christ was the Son of God. She believed that his word was true and that his word was to be followed every day of your life. She was willing to repent of her sins, to care less about what the world thought and care more about what God wanted. And she gave her life to Christ. She confessed her faith, not just when she came to Christ, but every day of her life, that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. She was buried with the Lord in baptism to contact his blood so that she could be forgiven of her sins, so that her name was written in the Lamb's book of life in heaven, so the Lord could add her to his church, so that she could receive his Holy Spirit, so that she could be made whole. And as good as Joree is and was, she still, like all of us, needed something to pay the price for our sins. His name is Jesus. And she unequivocally wants you to know and wanted it declared today that salvation is not found in your good works. Salvation is not because of how much money you donate. It's not found in how many vegetables you raise. It's found in the blood of Jesus. And no one comes to the Father except through him. And it's not just a checklist of things that we do to come to Christ. It's a life that we walk with him. It truly is a relationship. You walk with him every day of your life. Not turning aside from the right or to the left. You walk with Jesus every day. And she believed on that day just over 3 years ago when we let Homer go, that he was being taken home. The angels came and bore his soul to glory. And all the things that you said a while ago, Keith, he said to me. You get right with God. You take care of your wife. You take care of your family. And you spend the rest of your life doing good, especially to somebody who can't pay you back. And that is a direct quote on his deathbed. Oh, that everybody got to meet somebody in the House of 7 Hours coffee shop where you could have bought coffee for 30 cents a cup. that kindled a relationship that lasted all those years. They only dated 3 months. And every time they talked about getting married, they moved the date up. And aren't we glad they did? And aren't we glad they loved God first and put God in their marriage and served Him all of their days? They were faithful to God in the good days, and they were faithful to God on their worst days. Joree taught ladies' Bible class the night before her accident. And some of the ladies told me it was one of the best lessons she ever had. And you know what it was about? Serving people in dark times, in difficult days. And she referenced her mother. They loved each other, and you could see it in the way they cared for one another. Joree was accident prone. And she got hurt all the time, even before Homer left. And he would drive her around and drop her off right at the door so she could easily get in. He doted on her. But he doted on a lot of people. They went on mission trips together, and they quietly and secretively donated no telling how much money through all the years for tractors and gardens and watering irrigation systems, for people who were sick, people who needed food. Whatever it was, both of them at different times would come up to me and say, "You let me know if they need something, we're going to take care of it," and they did. We've heard a lot about the stand. Up here on the stand is a lockbox. It had a little hole in the top, as you can see in the picture. And it had a sign next to it that said self-pay. And I went out to the farm a lot because that's where I got my vegetables. One day, Homer was opening up the box. It was toward the end of the evening. And he was taking money out, and then he was taking out slips of paper. I said, "What are those pieces of paper?" He said, they're IOUs. He said, "That's why there's this box." Because I knew there were hungry people that wouldn't have any money to pay. So they could make out an IOU, put in the box, and they could eat with dignity. I said, "I bet you never saw all them IOUs get paid." He goes, "No. No, but I got paid. I got paid." It was at the farm that Joree and I sat in a gator right next to the porch, and Homer was seated up on the porch with one of the workers on the farm. Joree patted the seat. She said, "Come over here and sit down. I want to talk to you." I was like, "Oh no, what have I done?" Because I want to tell you, she had a gift. She was one of the most authentic people you will ever meet in your life. There was no such thing as being two-faced. If she thought it, she'd tell you about it. And she was so gracious when she did. To the point, but her point always had a point. And you should listen. She said, "Kevin, there's a church here in the county that needs a preacher, and I want you to think about it. It's Berea. And all I need to know is if you would at least listen to them or talk to them, I want to throw your name in the hat." I said, "Joree, no. No, I'm good, actually. I'm good. No, I don't want to do that." You see, I had been through some things in my life. And I can tell you that sometimes religion can get in the way of your faith. And sometimes church people are the worst people you could ever be treated by. And I had a good job working for Vanderbilt, and I really wasn't interested in putting myself out there again. And we sat there and talked for a long time, and they talked me into letting them throw my name out as someone to consider. Now, there were other people involved in the process, obviously, but not in my heart. Not till I talked to them. She told me about a church down in Florida. They were a little dysfunctional too. And Keith, you and Kent need to know that while the Lord was always on the throne, it hurt her and Homer's heart that that church didn't take care of you too. That it was not always a good place to be. But she never let that stop her from her commitment to her Lord and to the church. She didn't quit. She stuck in there with them. And her and Homer were a mighty force for what was right and what was good and what was honest and what was the way it should be, no matter what was going on in that church. And she gave me a message to give you two today. Don't let religion get in the way of your faith. You be true to God, no matter what. And she wants all of you guys to know that you carry her faith legacy in your veins. And you know this, Keith. On day 31,107, she was wanting to make sure everybody would be right with God and be faithful to Him all their days, because she knew, even though I didn't, that would be our last conversation. And she wants all of you to know that nothing else matters. As much as she loved everything about your lives, finance don't matter. Baseball don't matter. Medical school don't matter. Love don't matter. The boat don't matter. If God is not on the throne of your heart. And that same message is not just for family, it's for all of us. Joree didn't do what she did because she wanted to get to heaven. Joree did what she did because she was going to heaven. And there was this passion and desire to live an authentic life of service that gave her so much joy and peace and comfort and made her feel like she had purpose in life. And it wasn't about her. Life is not about what you get, it's about what you give. And she authentically lived that all of her days. She would have you to be passionate about life and faith, as was she. She would want you to be a person of deep faith and conviction. She adored her family, and she wants you to love your family. And she did update me on your stats. And she did tell me about medical school. And she did tell me how proud she was of you, Keith, and how you worked so hard. And she couldn't tell you, but I could see it in those beautiful eyes, how grateful that you made it to be with her to the end, because she knew you were going to take care of everything. And Kent, she rode the boat with you, brother. She might not have talked to y'all about it, but we talked about it. And when we get an update, she wanted me to know, make sure I knew where you were and what you were doing, what you had seen and what you ate. And the engine broke down and batteries went dead and all kinds of stuff. She told me about all of it. She thought you go on a trip was really cool. She was tired of your trip, though. Not because she wasn't excited for you. She just wanted you home. There wasn't anything that made Joree any more happy than when you guys came home. You were the apple of her eye. And you know that. How blessed you are that Joree was mom or Goggy. Or friend. I close with this thought. The greatest things in life are not things. They're not found in a bank. They're not stored in a garage. They're not found in a boat slip. It's not the beach. It's not a cabin on a hill. The greatest things in life are not things. They are the people God brings into your life. And if there's one thing that you need to learn from Homer and Joree, is to love God and love people. Authentically love people. That love will always come back to you. Jesus said, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through or steal. But you lay up treasures for yourself in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves cannot break through or steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. May your mind and may your heart, like Joree and like Homer, be on heaven. That's a youth group photo from their house just weeks ago. One of the largest turnouts for a Sunday night youth get-together was at Joree's house. That's her on the front row in overalls. And that's her with a smile from ear to ear because everybody came to her house. And there's a gate. There's a path into glory. And if you die in Jesus, the angels will come and bear your soul to glory. And if you know Homer and Joree, they're waiting at the gate to welcome you home. And so shall we ever be with the Lord. Just think of stepping on a shore and finding it heaven. Of touching a hand and finding it God's. Of breathing new air and finding it celestial. Of waking up in glory and finding your home. Will you bow as we pray? Our kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we love you so much. Help us to love you more. We believe in you so much. Help our faith to grow. Help us to think seriously about our relationship with you, to make sure that our life is walking in the light and that you're Son's precious blood is covering us every day. We're thankful for this wonderful life of a wonderful, godly woman that changed her corner of the world. She has changed all who know her, and we all are blessed by her. And we thank you for the gift that was Joree Dudley. Keep her in perfect peace until we can be with her again. Comfort, bless, and guide her precious family that she loves so much. And without loss of any of us here, may we all be gathered together with you in glory. And now, Father, we will slip over to the fellowship hall and enjoy a time of reminiscing and a wonderful meal that has been provided by her family in her honor. Will you bless the food, bless our time together, and bless the memory of our dear departed sister. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for the gift of your presence today. We have plenty of food for everybody. It would be Joree's request that you would come and take part of it. So if you'll go out these doors straight ahead, when the hallway ends, turn left, go out the doorway, and our new fellowship hall is straight ahead. The family requests the honor of your presence and a meal in her honor. She would want us to go out there and tell a good story and have a good laugh and enjoy the memories we have of a wonderful lady we call Joree. Thank you for being here today. You are dismissed.